There is a misconception about indie games and Super Smash Bros. People seem to assume that simply being indie makes them undeserving of appearing for some reason. This is a particularly silly notion when some indie games make more than some AAA games. For example, Capcom's Okami, whose protagonist Amaterasu has been requested numerous times for Smash Bros., has sold a lifetime 2.6 million sales. Meanwhile, Undertale, which came out nearly a decade later and has far less releases, has sold 3.58 million on just PC alone. Whether a game is indie or not doesn't matter. It's about their legacy, their popularity, and what they could offer to Smash Bros. That matters. And one such recent indie title that looks to be hitting all of these checks is Team Cherry's Hollow Knight. It's made a successful splash on the indie scene, with an upcoming sequel that even Nintendo is promoting at events alongside their own games. As a Metroidvania hero, the Knight has plenty of skills that could easily translate into Smash Bros., and recent fan polls for the Fighters Pass have had the Knight rank fairly highly, including our own, which you can see by following the card in the top right corner now. So, that makes Hollow Knight a perfect candidate for our All Content in Smash series. So, let's dig deep, claim our souls, and thread the needle around what content we could see in a Hollow Knight themed Smash Bros. Fighter Pass. Starting with fighters, the obvious here is the Knight, the silent protagonist of the original Hollow Knight. Although I feel she's less likely of the two, an argument could be made for Hornet, a recurring rival and ally in the first game who is getting her own starring role in the upcoming Hollow Knight Silksong. But let's just focus on the Knight for this video. So how would they play? Well, their signature needle would make up a lot of their standards, with smash attacks being themed around the nail arts they learn throughout the game. Hitting opponents would cause a soul meter to fill. Most of the Knight's specials will draw from this well. As a side note, they'd also have a wall jump straight from Hollow Knight. The standard special, Focus, uses the most soul out of any other special, a charging move that, if pulled, will give the Knight a temporary attack buff, or, if they could balance it correctly, it could heal the Knight. Personally, I find healing moves to be a bit broken in Smash Bros, so I think a buff is better, but if it could be balanced well, then healing would be more true to the character. Next is the side special, which is the Shade Soul. The Knight fires out a projectile that moves straight along the screen. If the Knight has max soul, then the projectile is the Shade variant and deals more damage. If they do not, then it's the original white variant. Down special also uses soul, the Abyss Shriek. Letting out a screech, this move doesn't do much damage and instead forces a large amount of knockback on opponents on all sides. A perfect keep away move. Lastly, we have the up special, the Crystal Heart. In the original game, the Crystal Heart only went left or right, but in Smash Bros. It goes in a straight line in any direction, depending on where the players are pushing on the analog stick. The move is the only one that does not consume soul, but it does require a charge up to reach its maximum height. There is also, of course, the Final Smash. This move summons Hornet and has her dash attack into opponents. Anyone hit will be launched into the sky, where the move will play out similar to Robin's Final Smash, but with Hornet and the Knight instead. Now onto the ults. The Hollow Knight has a simple design, so the colours are fairly easy. We decided to base them on the various charms the Knight receives throughout his adventure. First is the Wayward Compass, which makes the Knight's cloak red and their mask a more silverish colour. Then the Dash Master gives them a blue coat and a white mask, kind of like Sans. Deep Focus gives them a pink cloak with a pink tinted mask, while the Grub Song does the same but with the colour green. Then Hive Blood gives the Knight a gold cloak with a brownish gold mask, and the last two are based on the King's Soul and Void Heart respectively. One makes the Knight pure white, while the other pure black with white eye holes. Looking pretty spooky there. So that's all the character details sorted, so let's have a look at the potential stages. We had two ideas for this, the first being Green Path. Green Path is the second major area in the game and immediately striking. It's different from all the Dark Caves so far with its abundance of foliage and natural light. The potential stage could have vines on the side and acid water that damages opponents when they swim. There is also the Moss Charger enemy, which could pop out of the ground and charge the player for extra damage. There is a lot that could be done with this. However, the other stage idea we had is probably more fitting. City of Tears is a major area in the game, to the point where a rare animated cutscene happens when the Knight finds it. It's a grand area with a neat contrast between the natural, constant rain and the artificial, hard, wrought iron that makes up all the platforms and buildings. I don't think it should be based on any one section of the City of Tears, but instead an amalgamation of all its elements. The Hollow Knight Fountain could appear in the background with various buildings. Meanwhile, there is a metal scaffolding around that acts as floating platforms, and high up on either side are spiky roofs that will launch players further up. The stage is a walk-off, but on either side of the fountain area are 2 holes with rainwater running down them. Opponents can be knocked down into these holes to be defeated. I think this stage is the better of the two and more iconic for Hollow Knight. But what is a stage without music? Hollow Knight is a very ambient game, and the music matches, but during high intensity boss fights the music really picks up. A combination of these two types of tracks would represent the core feeling of Hollow Knight well. Just give them a listen. Right, so let's look at the types of battles that Hollow Knight could bring to Super Smash Bros., beginning with the classic mode, Deeper and Deeper. The idea here is that in every battle the knight will be travelling deeper underground, and every battle will represent a boss fight from the game. Level 1 is a grey King Dedede on Arena Ferox, representing the False Knight, the first major boss of Hollow Knight. Then in Level 2, we have a white Lucina in place of Hornet. If Green Path is the stage of choice for Hollow Knight, then it appears here, otherwise it would be Brinstar, as the stage uses acid like in Green Path. Next is Level 3, where 6 small black Donkey Kongs would be fought, a representation of the painful Watcher Knights battle. This would be on the Great Cave Offensive, unless City of Tears is the stage of choice, in which case this is where it would appear. An orange Incineroar on Mario Bros appears for Level 4. This represents the Dung Defender, and the stage was chosen because it is a sewer where the Dung Defender is fought. Then on to Level 5, we have a mirror match with the Knight on Norfair's battlefield. This represents the Broken Vessel, with Norfair representing the fiery burning infection that comes into play in this fight. Level 6 is a giant Ridley to represent the Nosk fight, and is done on Brinstar Depths, the lowest and creepiest stage in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Finally, we have the boss, Marx, who represents the Radiance. Galeem would have been perfect for this, but neither he nor Darkon appear in classic mode. Prima donnas. We also had another idea for classic mode around dream related characters, but we decided that this one is better as so much of Hollow Knight is underground. So now for more fights with the spirit battles. As always, a fighter spirit of the night will appear after doing classic mode. Hornet will also get a spirit even if she is not the fighter of choice. In her battle, Hornet is played by a white Lucina on either Distant Planet or Green Path, if the latter would be chosen. Lucina is much faster than normal, and when her health gets low, she gets an attack boost. Hornet is an ace primary attack spirit. Let's work through the primary spirits first, as we already covered Hornet, starting with the lowest and then rising up. So, the only novice primary spirit is a neutral type and is the selfish, weak Zote the Mighty. Zote is played by a tiny version of the Knight and is a stamina battle on either Luigi's Mansion or City of Tears if it's a stage. Next is the Nosk. It is an advanced grabbed spirit played by a blue Ridley on the Omega version of Brinstar Depths. The stage is covered in a poisonous fog and occasionally bombs will appear out of nowhere. The other advanced spirit is another grab type and is the optional boss, the Collector. This creepy shadow-like man is played by a giant Mr. Game & Watch on Dracula's Castle that favours grab attacks. Now the ace spirits, and we have two of these excluding Hornet. First is the shield type spirit, the Dung Defender, played by Incineroar on either the Omega version of either City of Tears or Hannenbau. He is joined by a white Kirby and the floor is sticky. Also, on occasion, the soccer item will spawn. Incineroar also prioritises his grabs and side B, a truly ace battle for the Dung Defender. The other one is the Broken Vessel, played by a Gold Knight on the Battlefield version of Norfair. This primary grab spirit can unleash a random critical hit and their final smash meter charges faster than normal. The lower platform is also covered in lava, it's just one thing after another. And finally the legendary spirit, the Hollow Knight. This beast is played by the Knight as well and on Final Destination. It is an attack type and boy does it show. This enemy can also unleash powerful critical hits at random, has permanent super armor and is even hard to launch. Meanwhile, the player is much easier to launch than normal. Potentially they could also be giant, but that might be too cruel a fight. With that, let's go on to the support spirits, and I'll go in what I feel is the order of difficulty, because why not? First is the Shroomal fight, fought on Brinstar for the Acid. In this no-frills battle, you fight two Ivysaurs, and on their defeat a giant one appears. The effect of this support grants the wielder poison damage. Then the Hunter comes next, and his support increases attacks when undamaged. He's played by a dark Ganondorf on the Great Cave Offensive, and he tries to avoid conflict in this timed stamina battle. The Hunter has become the hunted. Next we have the Mantis Lords, who offer easy dodging to players. The first is played by a Black Corrin, and after some time a Navy Lucina and Black Zero Suit Samus with a Killing Edge will appear. This battle is done on Shadow Moses Island. Coming up is Cornifer and Isilde, played by a Navy Meta Knight and a Bayo 1 Bayonetta. It's a no-frills battle on Dracula's Castle, and the winner gets their item gravitation support spirit. Then there is the Troopmaster Grimm. His support increases the effects of fire and explosion attacks, and he is played by a Black Zelda with 3 Navy Meta Knights to accompany her. They are fought on the boxing ring, and Zelda likes to use her neutral special, Din's Fire. And the final match is against the White Lady on Green Path, Orgwar Plains Omega at night. The White Lady is played by Palutena, who is avoiding conflict and trying to stand in the same spot. She is protected by a White Knight with increased attack and the metal effect. You only have to defeat the White Lady to win, but the match is complicated by being a timed stamina battle. The support you get for winning is critical health healing, so very much worth doing. And that does it for all the spirits and everything we would get in a Hollow Knight Fighters Pass, but before we go, there is always the Mii Fighters, and this one is pretty easy. If the Knight is the chosen fighter, then Hornet would be a Mii Sword Fighter outfit and vice versa. We had some other ideas like a Dung Defender Brawler or a cute Shroomal hat, but the Hornet one is definitely the most likely one by far. Another episode of All Content complete. Let me know if you enjoyed it and who you want to see next. A big thanks to Wolfman for all his help collecting information for this video. Hit that like, a subscribe if you haven't yet, and share this video around. It'll help us greatly. A special thank you to all our patrons on screen right now. If you would like to support us, the link is below. With that, always remember to return to the source.